Okay, we're on, and very slowly people are going to start trickling in. I think an email goes out right away as we start. But for the very first few people who are joining, you are looking at Conor Lamb and Kyle Sweetser. We're not going to start just yet. We'll give it like 3 or 4 minutes to kind of heat up. And then Kyle will introduce himself, talk about what he's doing down in Alabama. Kyle and I had the chance to run into each other very briefly a few weekends ago at a conference called Principles First, which is a group that has a lot of former Republicans in it, trying to talk about what's best for the country and how to kind of help the pro-democracy movement. And I think whether you're a partisan Democrat or you're an independent or you don't know what you are, the biggest tent approach possible is kind of what we really need to get things back on track. So you must be a popular guy, Kyle. A bunch of people just all joined at once, which is great. So we'll still give them a minute or two to get in. Where are you talking to us from? Are you in Alabama today?
Yeah, I'm in Mobile, which is where I live, actually. So that's a
Oh, cool.
change. I've been on the road quite a bit and, learning really and feeling it how long of a state Alabama is. Of course, we don't have the problem that Texas has, but
How's your weather right now?
good. It's warm. It's been a bit rainy, but it's warm and muggy down here in Mobile. It's pretty much like a rainforest. And if you're not aware, we beat Seattle for some years for rainfall. So
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah. Pittsburgh, often where I am, we get rainfall, but we compete with Seattle for the grayest climate of like almost anywhere in the country. So today's a perfect example of that. It's actually warm here, which is nice, but we're not seeing the sun yet at all. So, if hopefully that doesn't come across in my sunny disposition. It's not affected too much, but we'll see. So, okay, we got enough here. We might as well get going. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming back. It's awesome to see you. I am joined today by Kyle Sweetser, who is right now pursuing the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate in Alabama. He has a primary coming up, which he can talk about. And then the main event. This is actually an open seat this fall. People forget this, but Tommy Tuberville has decided to pursue the governorship in Alabama. So he's leaving the Senate. The seat's open. I know there's a lot of talk about Texas and everything, but Alabama is a state we actually have won as Democrats, like in recent memory. And it's a very special one for me because Doug Jones's victory happened in December of 2017, just as my congressional campaign was getting off the ground for my special election. I was kind of next up after Doug 3 months later, actually 8 years ago on Friday of this week is when that was. So Doug's victory kind of like lifted me up a ton, and it made a lot of people believe that I could win if he won. And, then we won. And once you're in that little club, I think it's important to look for the people who can do it next, because often they aren't believed in like they should be. And I think Kyle might be one of those guys. So I wanted to invite him on here for people to hear about him and hear about how they can support his campaign. So Kyle, why don't you just kind of say a few words by way of introduction?
Well, I really appreciate you. Thank you, Conor. Thank you so much. Being able to reach folks is always been a challenge, especially for a grassroots campaign coming from nothing. Somebody like me, I've got a construction background. My background is from dealing with people in their homes where they're more comfortable to be themselves. Which brings a little bit of a different perspective to
Although often
politics.
stressed out by contractors too. You must have a good personality for keeping people calm and happy.
Yeah, well, when you work in and out of people's houses, people tell you everything. As a customer, and whenever you're working for them. So yeah.
So talk a little bit about, I know about you in part because you spoke at the convention in 2024 for the Democrats, but maybe talk a little bit about your own journey. I think when a few years ago, you were a little more on the Republican side and some things started to change your mind, which probably makes you a perfect candidate for Alabama, but maybe tell them a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm a former Republican voter, was never involved in politics. Going in and out of people's houses, though, working in construction, really post 2016 when I started my own business, doing my own work for garage doors, doing all the work myself. Seeing that change in people that the MAGA movement was bringing about was alarming, to say the least. And in 2018, I got to see how steel tariffs work with finished steel products, how tariffs, affect the economy, how they affect the little guy, and they harm small businesses. They harm the folks that are on the other end of the receiving end of it, which is the consumer ultimately. And in a place like Alabama, where we're 49th in income, where Republicans have been the establishment now for quite some time, one party rule, basically. Um, it's just sad that we've given away that ability to debate these tariffs. So that affected me, and seeing how that affected folks in Alabama firsthand, that really impacted me. But after January 6th, 2021, that was it for me.
Yeah.
Never politically involved, never imagined that I would be doing anything like this, much less just speaking out publicly about politics. I kept my nose down to the grindstone and worked 7 days a week, and got after it and just was focused on providing for my family and doing good work.
How did it
Um,
affect you when you started speaking out? Like, did it affect your business at all? Or
not that I know of. It helps being cheaper than everyone else.
yeah,
Ultimately that speaks volumes, but it did, affect some personal relationships with friends, which wasn't as bad as you would think. It's just folks were confused. They thought that that I was trolling or something, but really those conversations with people that know you over the years, that's another thing. Understanding that people just they can't understand how you could think differently or having a differing opinion from the status quo. It's another reason why this is so important, especially in Alabama, where we have no accountability really in our political system because we've got this one party state. So being able to force these conversations, force debate, is really important. That way, we can get people out of this lockstep tribalist mindset where it's here in Alabama, you're either an Auburn fan or an Alabama fan, and it's almost that way with politics, and it
that's right.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
shouldn't be that way.
Although clearly, there was some kind of opening when Doug beat Roy Moore. It's special elections are always a little weird, but obviously there were some people who just couldn't quite get there with Roy Moore. They were uncomfortable with him. And, do you feel like there are those kind of voters still where maybe they haven't voted for every Democratic candidate, but if they understand you as a businessman and a person with values, that you might have a chance with them?
Absolutely. So that race was a little different. That was about character.
Yeah.
And at the time, Roy Moore was banned from going in a mall up in wherever he's from. I mean,
Right.
when he ran, he was banned from going in a mall already. That was about character. This is about, representing the people of Alabama. This is about focusing on the issues in ways that we can use the government to help improve people's lives and to make sure the government isn't infringing on our rights here in Alabama. You know, Looking at this administration, looking at the Republican Party, and talking about how if that exists to be able to win here, it does, because the Republican Party has essentially programmed people in Alabama uh, to be anti-establishment. They ran this anti-establishment message for years, this anti-Washington D.C. Message for years, and now they are the establishment. They have been the establishment. They promise to deliver, and the fact is that the numbers don't show that they've delivered. They failed. Republicans have failed.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Well, I mean, especially for the job you're running for, the US Senate, you've mentioned the tariff issue a couple of times, but Congress has just handed that over to the president. And now you're going to see, even more costs with the war in Iran that Congress should have been consulted on first and refused to. So, I mean, those two issues right there are just they're just there for the taking. We wish they weren't there. I mean, we wish he didn't do these things, but you're the only candidate, I'm sure, who's going to stand up and say, I'm going to make these two things different and it's going to make our whole economy better.
Right. You look at what's happened with tariffs and you look at Alabama's economy. It's very interesting that we have folks that are representing us that aren't properly representing our state. If you're not aware, Mobile, Alabama, where I live, it now has the deepest saltwater port in the entire Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
So as of this last year, and so it's having trade partners, being connected, is so important to the future of Alabama's economy and really folks in the present. Whenever you have things like tariffs, these tariffs from the executive office that are completely out of control, they don't just affect the immediate port. They don't just affect that industry that you think they affect. They also affect the trucking industry, right? And they
Absolutely.
affect so many other businesses. They make it hard to do business. They make it hard in some cases to manufacture things in the U.S. That's the
While
irony.
not adding manufacturing jobs too. That's what kills me. Here in Western Pennsylvania, I think there were a lot of people who were sympathetic on the tariffs at first because in their minds it was tied to like steel making jobs that we used to have. And I know Alabama, Birmingham, especially big steel making area. None of that has increased since I mean, the steel tariffs went into effect 8 years ago, and the steel employment is the same here as it ever was, if not a little lower. And that's what I think I really hope that you're able to drive home this year is we got nothing for the bargain. We essentially just taxed ourselves with these things.
Absolutely, and it's steel tariffs that you mentioned, and how they're affecting folks, and also the tariffs in general. But you can also look at immigration and immigration policy and how it's costing us. How we're giving these people $50,000 bonuses a year, and if you're not aware, there are many teachers in the state of Alabama that don't even make that in an entire year.
Right. You're talking about the
There's
ICE agents getting $50,000 bonuses?
right.
Yeah.
Right, and there's folks here in Alabama that we just don't have the money to live. Our poverty rate is so high, and it's actually because of things like regressive taxes. If you're not aware, about a year or two ago, we've made some small changes, but the Tax Foundation, they put out something on our sales tax policy here, and we were 49th, Alabama. So a lot of folks think because we have low land taxes that people aren't getting taxed. No, the working people here in Alabama are being taxed. You're being taxed when you go to the grocery store. We had this huge grocery tax, which part of it got cut. So we're very familiar with regressive taxes, and tariffs are regressive taxes. But back to immigration. I went to an event in Blount County, and people are just fired up a few days ago, and there was a woman who had messaged me on Facebook and asked if she was allowed to come to the event. I said absolutely, and so she showed up with her family and she gave this amazing just impromptu speech about immigration and how our immigration system is broken and how she was undocumented for 26 years and she's now a U.S. citizen, and how people are just absolutely terrified, and our tax money is doing this. So it's harming these folks. I mean, she was in tears talking about her family, talking about the fact that she knows or is aware of folks that are being held in detention facilities where they have 30 people in a room and they're not separated by sex. So you have men and women in the same room with a toilet and no privacy.
Yeah. Now
That I
you've
mean,
mentioned a few times too, being you're a business person yourself, and that Republican policies have kind of hurt the business climate there. Do you see anything where business leaders are willing to talk about this immigration problem and how much of a problem it creates as far as the labor force? Is anybody speaking out about that, or at least talking to you about it privately?
yeah. So privately, it's big. It's a big deal. Prior to the deportations, Alabama had 38 workers for every 100 jobs. And some of these areas, they're in concentrated, like in construction, it's 10%, but it's really the damage really comes from where it's concentrated, where the immigrant workers are concentrated at. So you've got folks, that do concrete, brickwork, wood framing, that kind of thing. So what happens when you don't have that workforce, or they're just afraid if they're here, and they're legally here. A lot of folks are afraid. They're afraid of ICE. I talked to a manufacturer that had folks that had green cards, and it'd be nice if we could get these folks to speak out publicly. But he said ICE blocked the road going into their facility one day, and didn't deport anybody. But he had some folks there working in with green cards, and they just quit showing up to work because they're terrified.
Wow. So, what would you say, for you personally, once you get the nomination and you're kind of heading into the summer and early fall, what do you think are the particular issues that you can really use to try to get people's attention? Again, it's an open seat. You don't have to worry about people being loyal to an incumbent. Is it kind of these bread and butter economic things, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really going across party line. The platform that we put together is a platform that's based on common ground. So reining in the executive office, whether it's a Democrat or happened to if an independent were ever to win, or a Republican. It's important that we rein in the executive office, that we see, hey, look how far the executive branch can go, and we need to make sure that they're held accountable.
Right,
I want to pass legislation that undoes a Supreme Court ruling that says the president is above the law.
right.
That's insane. No one should be above the law in our country.
Yeah,
I want to pass immigration legislation. I believe in strong borders. But you look at what's happening, it's fiscally irresponsible, it's unconstitutional in ways, and it's flat out immoral. And it's an attack in some ways on our economy. We have to be smarter about what we're doing. Passing legislation is so important. Fixing our broken immigration system, making sure we have strong borders, making sure that we deport folks that are violent criminals. That needs to be all baked in.
yeah.
And really, the last thing is some of these clean water issues that we have. If you're
Oh,
not
that's
aware,
interesting. Yeah, you don't hear about those as much in the national debate every day.
well, there is this very, you know, it's wild. Democrats and Republicans agree on these clean water issues. I mean, almost 100%. I don't think I've ran into anyone that doesn't agree. And they actually get fired up in our state. And sometimes the Republican Party now has been moving on a couple issues because we're holding their feet to the fire and because it speaks to many of their voters. Alabama is the most biodiverse place in all of North America.
Is
We
that right?
are
Wow, okay.
we are Alabama's. Alabama is really America's Amazon, specifically down here in the Mobile Tensile Delta. You look though how many rivers we have, and you can go on outdooralabama.com, and Republicans and Democrats love to fish. They love the outdoors, and you look at that list, and there are dozens of rivers that we can't eat the fish out of because of things like mercury. And so
I'm gonna go ahead
I,
and guess Tommy Tuberville didn't get a whole lot accomplished on that front, right?
right, and so what I want to do is make sure that not we don't have to be in any direction 100%, but we need to be thinking about the future.
Right.
So as we expand our grid, because we're doing that right now. As the grid expands, we need to make sure that we're bringing in the tax credits, or we're bringing in credits to help push or help diversify energy. Just like
Mhm.
oil, we're not going to move away from oil in the near future. And in fact, there's so much that good that's been done down here in Mobile, specifically with some of these gas rigs, these natural gas rigs. We have a tax on those, and that tax goes to the Forever Wild Fund, and it's went to expanding hunting and fishing opportunities. We have one of the largest artificial reef programs in the world.
Wow.
Alabama, with our small amount of coastline, tens of thousands of artificial reefs, and much of that is funded by this. So, smart policy where we're thinking about the future, where we're not hurting the economy, but we're doing things in a way that moves our country forward so we can leave the world a better place.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you have the right platform and right mix of things for Alabama. I think that in the Democratic Party, one of the things that I don't think we pay enough attention to is the fact that no matter who we elect for president, we all put a lot of focus on that. It's very difficult to conceive of a future where the Democrats are winning more than 51, 52-ish Senate seats under the current map. We have to expand the map if we want to govern, especially as long as the filibuster stays in place. In my own view, I hope we can get rid of it someday or adjust it or change it. But regardless of that, we have to be able to win races like yours. We have to be able to win states like Ohio and Iowa and Alaska, North Carolina, I think Alabama, and even Mississippi. Some years looks like it could happen depending on what. So I know Texas is getting a lot of attention right now, but you're somebody in a state where we have actually won in recent memory. So just as we kind of wrap up, maybe talk a little bit about the support that you need. I put your link in the chat here, but you're trying to raise money against a Republican nominee that, of course, is going to be well funded. Talk a little bit about how that's going.
Yeah. So, leading in fundraising on the Democratic side here. Um, the Republicans, though, Barry Moore, he received, I think, 5 million or so from a crypto pack. And he's raised up outside of that, maybe one somewhere between 1 to 1.5 million. So they're going to be very well funded.
Yeah.
The great thing about Barrymore, though, is he has the charisma of a rock. He's
Right.
done one real public speaking event that I know of, where anyone could show up as a town hall, and he was chased out of the room 20 minutes early, basically, because he couldn't answer questions. He
Right.
went out the back door. If you haven't seen that video, everybody down here calls him Backdoor Barry now. So he just yeah. So we're gonna get after it. We need to raise money here. Our campaign needs money to be able to message, to be able to get the message out.
Right.
It's largely been a grassroots campaign. So anything that y'all could do, $5, $10, $25, and I'm also not against y'all, donating the occasional $100. That really help,
Right.
but be a huge help, and it's an investment in our country. We have to have the ability in places like Alabama to fight back against what's happening. And our
Well, and
country is,
especially to do it how you're doing it. It kind of sounds like you're running a campaign where you're trying to talk about what's right. You're trying to talk in a way that is respectful to the voters. And, what leadership really is at the end of the day, usually is bringing people together who are different from each other. And unfortunately, in this environment, that doesn't always raise the most money because it doesn't always provoke a lot of viral anger. Do you find that it's a challenge to kind of stay in your lane or stay focused as the kind of candidate you're trying to create here?
no, not at all. It has to happen. It has to be done.
Well, that's why these
Um,
people need to help you then, because you
right.
know who you are and you're the kind of person that can win, but they don't always the big money folks out there don't always understand that. So that's why people like who are watching you right now can come in handy.
Yeah, like I said, really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Good luck to you. We will definitely all continue to follow along and stay in touch. And I don't think people always appreciate either just kind of the personal courage and commitment it takes to run in a race that's both going to be high profile and hard to win. So, I mean, you're going to be in the spotlight a lot. People are going to know who you are. They're going to know who your family is. And at the same time, it's going to feel like you're going uphill the whole time. And that's a real sacrifice, for your country. And it sounds like you're trying to do it the right reason. So, everyone on here, I'm sure, thanks you. And hopefully some of them will thank you with their wallet as well as their words.
Well, thank you so much. It is an uphill battle, but 2026 is our year. You
It
see
is.
how things are going. You see this administration that's operating outside of Congress. They're doing things that are unconstitutional every day. um, just the sheer lawlessness and the impact that it's having on the people of Alabama and the people of our country. People are scared. They're really scared about what's happening. They're not sure how to plan for the future. Businesses are in absolute chaos with these tariffs. So this is our chance, but I need y'all's help. So please share our content, follow our race, and contribute if you can. Thank you.
Just putting your link in the chat one more time. Thank you for what you're doing. We'll definitely all continue to follow and appreciate everybody coming on today. See ya.
Thank you.